How are you all today? Pretty good? Good. Well, we're certainly feeling the heat today in this last few days. I was, I don't know if you probably didn't know, but on Saturday we had our annual AmCham 美国商会台中美国商会 pool party, swimming pool party for Independence Day, although July 1st is not America's birthday, of course. It's what day? What day is America's birthday? July 4th, yeah. So do you know, so here's a question. Do you know what day July 1st is for what country celebrates July 1st? Anyone know? For their kind of their national day? Yes, very good, Canada. So July 1st is Canada Day. And then I know, I forget the exact date, I'll have to look it up, but I know France also celebrates what they call Bastille Day sometime in July, maybe right around now, maybe July 1st. I forget. I need to check. But so we were kind of joking because Saturday was Canada Day, not American Independence Day. But because it was a Saturday and it was closer to July 4th, we decided to have our celebration, our pool party on that day. But for the whole week, last week, I was really, really nervous because every single day, the day would start very sunny, and then around 4 o'clock, 2, 3, 4 o'clock, it would start raining, and our party started at 4 o'clock. So I was very nervous, but fortunately, the weather was great on Saturday. It did not rain. The sky stayed blue, and it was nice. It was a good time. We had about over 70 people there, so it was fun. And, you know, of course, it was open to everybody. We had a lot of Taiwanese friends there and people from all over the world. So anyhow, July 4th, which was Tuesday, is actually a very big holiday. It's the biggest holiday of the summer for Americans. So people will take off. And do you know what people do for July 4th? Any ideas? What do people? Eating hot dogs. Okay, well, that's one thing. But not just hot dogs. Americans, what? Fireworks? Yeah, that's a big one. It seems like every little town and big city in America will have a fireworks, you know, 烟火. A what? Maybe. Some places might have a parade. But the fireworks are very important. Then we have, of course, people like to have outdoor, like a picnic or barbecue or something. So, you know, usually the weather's like this. It's very hot, very sunny, and people like to go outside and make hot dogs and hamburgers and things like that. So it's a fun time. It's a very relaxing, fun summer holiday for Americans. So anyhow, I thought we would start today by looking at an article on that because it has been it's been a good time for that. So anyhow, I'll read this here. It says, U.S. braves heat, rain to celebrate independence. Now, this word up here, the second word, braves, okay, you know what brave normally means what? What does it normally mean? Well, if we say someone is very brave, what does that mean? 勇敢, right? They're very brave. They're very courageous. I guess there's other ways of saying that. So if you say somebody is courageous, right? Because they show courage. So, or we say they are very brave. Okay, so it's the same idea. So why don't we say that word together? Brave. Brave. Courage. Courageous. Courageous. Of course, that comes from the word courage, which is 名词. Let's say that as well. Courage. Courage. Okay. So if you're brave or courageous, you have, you know, you're 勇敢. But he said a word, actually here, it doesn't mean that, this has no connection really to, or direct connection to 勇敢. But if you say they brave something, what does that mean? You said kind of to endure. It means to kind of, a little bit like to take a risk, okay? 风险. So for example, if you say, today the traffic was terrible. Maybe the roads are completely full, and you say, I braved the traffic to drive to work. Kind of like to endure. Or let's say it starts raining very hard, but I need to go somewhere. I say I brave the rain to go shopping or go running. Okay, so it means even though there's a situation that is very perhaps negative or tough or bad, I still went out there and did that. Okay, so some of you've been saying the word to endure. I don't think it's exactly the same as to endure. Endure means to go through something, to get through it. But brave means almost like I'm going to do this even though there could be a risk to me or trouble. So it doesn't matter if it's bad traffic, if it's raining very hard, or here it's very hot outside. I'm still going to take that risk. I'm still going to do that. So again, we can say I braved the traffic to drive to work. I braved the rain to go running. They braved the heat to go outside and celebrate. Okay, does everybody understand that? Okay, so it turns into a 动词, to brave something. Okay, so it says here, U.S. braves heat and rain. Okay, so it was hot and rainy in some cases to celebrate independence. So here it says 4th of July. Okay, so when we write this holiday as a holiday, we spell it out like that. Usually we capitalize the F, 4th of July. Okay, not all in capital letters, but yeah, anyhow. So the 4th of July. Some people say July 4th, 4th of July. Okay, so it says rain delayed several events, including a hot dog eating contest in New York, but the Macy's fireworks show in the city was not affected. Okay, now Macy's, I don't know if anyone knows what Macy's is. Does anyone have any idea? Yeah, it's this huge department store. I don't think it still is the biggest, but it is a big department store, and it still exists. They actually have pretty good stuff. It's a little bit higher end, slightly higher end, but they're a department store, 百货公司. And every year they sponsor a fireworks show, but they're actually more famous for at Thanksgiving. They have this this parade with all these giant balloons, chicho, giant balloons. I mean, they're the size of houses, and they do this at Thanksgiving. It's Macy Thanksgiving Day parade, and so anyhow, they're very famous for sponsoring these events. So it says here, rain delayed several events, including a hot dog eating contest. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a second because that's a part of this tradition in America. Okay, so let's go on and read the article. It says, revelers across the U.S. braved heat and heavy rain to take part in 4th of July activities on Tuesday, celebrating the nation's founding with parades, fireworks, and hot dog eating contests. Okay, so the first word here is a word that you may or may not know. What is a reveler? Right. So if you say to revel, okay, sometimes we say to revel in something. It means to enjoy it very much, okay? So for example, you can say he reveled in the celebration. It means he enjoyed it very much. But we can also revel in something else. Like, for example, if someone praises you a lot, gives you a lot of praise, 赞美, you can say he reveled in her praise. It means that he really enjoyed the praise that he was receiving from her, okay? The 赞美. Or you can revel in anything that you really enjoy. It means it's kind of this idea of you're surrounded by it and you just feel really good and happy and you're enjoying it, okay? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We say paint the town red. I have no idea. Yeah. So he refers to if people go out and they really party, they're like going out and maybe they're going out and having a good time with their friends and they're drinking a lot. And we say to paint, paint like to paint the wall, to paint the town red. Okay. Now I have no idea where that started from. I don't know if someone went out and painted the town red or what, but it usually means to go out and really go a little bit crazy, to have a really kind of a crazy time down with your friends to celebrate or something. So yeah, to paint the town red. But why don't we say this together? To revel. To revel. To revel in. Okay, and then this word, reveler. Revelers. Okay, so revelers obviously would be people that are having a good time. They're having a party or something. So it says revelers across the U.S., and here's that word again, braved heat and heavy rain to take part in 4th of July. Okay, so this is the way we would write it, 4th of July with a capital F and a capital J. Okay, 4th of July activities on Tuesday, celebrating the nation's founding. Okay, now what does this mean, founding? Yeah, so how many times have you seen a logo of a company or a sign for a company, a business, and underneath in small letters it might say founded in 1970 or founded in 1865, or something like that. So founded, to found means to start, 成立, right? To found something. So you can say this company was founded in 1980. Okay, so it's celebrating the nation's founding. Okay, so here it is a noun, but we can also say he founded his company. That's a 动词. You can found it, well, almost anything. Yeah, I would say this library was founded in, it means it was started, it was created. Yeah, so company, yeah. You could even found, well, here we even found a government, right? A nation was founded, was started, created. Okay, so they celebrated the nation's founding with parades. Okay, they have these 4th of July parades, fireworks, as we know, and hot dog eating contests. Okay. Okay, so let's read this together. Revelers across the U.S. braved heat and heavy rain to take part in 4th of July activities on Tuesday, celebrating the nation's founding with parades, fireworks, and a hot dog eating contest. Okay, sorry, hot dog eating contests, not one. Yeah, there's several, yeah. Okay, so let's go on. It says, in Boston, people dodged raindrops to nab a coveted space on the grassy oval in front of the Hatch Shell along the Charles River, ahead of the traditional Boston Pops fireworks spectacular. Okay, there's a lot of great words here. Okay, so first of all, this is in Boston. So people dodged raindrops. What does to dodge mean? To run away from, but there's a slightly different idea. It means to go back and forth, to avoid. Okay, so if you avoid something, for example, let's say you're on the road and a car or motorcycle is coming towards you very quickly, and you jump out of the way. That's to dodge. I dodged the motorcycle. I dodged. So it's not like you're just running in a straight line. It means you're avoiding something. Okay. I used to. I love that game. When I was a kid, there's a game called dodgeball, right? And each side has these balls, and you have to throw it at the other side. And if they get hit, they're out, right? Or if they catch the ball, you're out, right? You played that game, right? Oh yeah, I loved it. Yeah. And so yeah, it was one of my favorite games when I was in Xiaoxue. Yeah, but yeah, that's called dodgeball because why? Because you're throwing the ball and people are trying to get out of the way. They're trying to dodge the ball. Okay, so let's read that together. Dodged. Okay, so it says here people dodged raindrops. Okay, so of course when it's raining, every one of those is a raindrop. Now of course you can't dodge all the raindrops, but maybe some of them if you're trying to run out of the rain. So they dodged raindrops. Let's read that. Raindrops. Okay. To nab a coveted space. Okay. So there's a couple words here. They're trying to get a space. Now, this word covet means what? Well, but it's a very interesting thing. It's something where you really desire something. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, no, they're I don't know if you know, in the Bible, there's a very famous 10 commandments, right? It's like 10 rules. Right, you should not covet other people's belongings, right? So, you see your neighbor has a new car and you're like, oh, that's such a beautiful car. I want that car. Or, you covet someone has a new watch and you're like, I really want that watch. Yeah, I mean, actually, that's in the Bible. Do not covet your neighbor's wife. Okay, so yeah, if you really desire something, you want it, almost in a bad way. I mean, actually, covet. If you covet something, it's usually sometimes it's not good, but here it's not bad or good. It just means a coveted space means that what everyone wants that space. Okay, there's that area everybody wants to sit in. I'll give you an example. I don't know if you ever go to the Taichung Jie, the jazz festival, but there's a space right in front of the stage, and everybody wants to sit there because they can see the music, right? So some of my friends, they'll go there like at early, like 1 o'clock, and they'll put out their blankets so they can have that space. They can save that space. So we can say that area is a very coveted area or coveted space. Everybody wants it. So here, of course, the coveted space in this grassy oval. Okay, so first of all, let's read this word covet. Covet. Coveted. Coveted. Now, so the word covet is a 动词. And then, of course, here it turns into a 形容词, coveted space. Okay, so, but you can say he coveted that, or he do not covet your neighbor's wife or whatever. Okay, so people dodge raindrops to nab. Okay, now here's another word. To nab, what does that mean? To get, yeah. Now, often it's almost like the idea of, you know the word grab, right? To grab something. It's a little bit like that. But this word can get used in many different ways. Of course, here they're trying to get or grab that space that everybody wants. But we also sometimes I see this word like, let's say the police nabbed the criminal. They nabbed the killer. It means they caught them. 抓到, right? Okay, so it can be used to catch someone, or here it's to get a space, to nab. Okay, so a little bit like snatch. Yeah, it's similar to that. Actually, that's probably a better word than grab. To snatch something, to get it. So to snatch, to grab, to nab. Okay, these are all similar words. Okay, so let's say that word together. Nab. Nab. Okay, so they dodge the raindrops to nab a coveted space on the grassy oval. Okay, now this is a grass field. What's an oval? What shape is that? Yeah, like an egg. Yeah, oval. Okay, so let's say that too. Oval. Oval. Okay, so a grassy oval. This is a space that's shaped like an oval in front of the hat shell. Now, I believe, I don't know exactly what this is. I haven't Googled it yet, but I believe it's probably like amphitheater. Like at the Taichung Yuanman, what is that? Yuanman 剧场. They have that it's called a amphitheater. I've heard that called a shell before because it looks like a, what is that? Bake. Yeah, it has that shape to it. So it might be one of those things. So they want to sit in front of this along the Charles River. Of course, this is a river, goes through Boston. Ahead of, we can say, or before, the traditional Boston Pops fireworks spectacular. Okay, now Boston Pops, I don't know, it used to be the name of a group, a musical group, the Boston Pops. Actually, people listened to this music, and it was a group, okay? So I don't know if they perform. Probably they perform. And often, because when you have fireworks, often they have music that goes with it. So I'm not sure of this one, but perhaps they perform during this fireworks show. Now, this is interesting because spectacular is normally used as a 形容词, right? It means amazing, right? That was amazing. That was spectacular. It was. I loved it. Okay, but here, and I've seen this, it can be used as a 名词. When you have an amazing show, we can call that a spectacular. Okay, now that's not the normal way we would use this word. Normally, it's just a 形容词. But here, of course, you can see it's used as a noun, and we say that is a fireworks spectacular. It's a show, usually a huge show, big show, amazing, very impressive show. Okay, so let's say that those two words together: fireworks spectacular. Spectacular. Right. Okay. So this is a big show, and everybody wants a good space, good spot to watch it. Okay. So let's read this. In Boston, People dodged raindrops. Raindrops to nab a coveted space. Let's say that 2 words again. Coveted space. On the grassy oval in front of the Hatch Shell along the Charles River. Ahead of the traditional Boston Pops. Boston Pops. Fireworks spectacular. Okay, so everybody wants to get out there. Okay, so it says here, hundreds of thousands of partygoers typically line both sides of the river for the fireworks spectacular. Okay, so here's the noun again, that follows a concert. So there we go. There you know exactly. So I guessed correctly, right? So here it's hundreds, 几十万, hundreds of thousands of party goers. Now, this word is very similar to the word we learned earlier, which is revelers, right? So here we take, if you go to a party, you are a party goer, right? It becomes a 名词. To go to a party, party goer. Okay, so why don't we say it together? Party goers. Party goers. Okay, so typically, of course, we could say normally or usually. Okay, so typically line. Okay, line means to be on both sides of. Okay, so there's a river, so they're all together on both sides of the river. It's like creating a line for the fireworks spectacular that follows a concert. So here we have it. There's the Boston Pops concert, and then there's a fireworks show afterwards. Okay, so people sit there, they watch the concert, then they watch the fireworks. So it sounds like a fun time. Okay, so let's read this together. Hundreds of thousands of party goers typically line both sides of the river for the fireworks spectacular that follows a concert. Right, okay. That's a photo caption. So this one's fun. It says, at another long-standing celebration, fans of competitive eating crowded to watch Nathan's famous international hot dog eating contest in the Coney Island section of New York City. Okay, so at another long-standing celebration, and this word, I don't know if we've seen, what is long-standing? I think you can guess. What does that mean? Yeah, lasting for a long time. So you can say it is our long-standing tradition to open our presents on Christmas Eve. Okay, so anything that you've done for a long time, we can say long-standing. Means it's been going on for a long time. But it's a little bit different from the word long-term. Long-term has a slightly different, it's more like a long-standing, we often say long-standing tradition, long-standing practice. Long-term simply means something that is going on for a long time. But this is more like something I'm doing for a long time. It has a slightly, we don't use them in quite the same way. So let's say it together, long-standing. Long-standing. Okay, so fans of competitive eating. Now, I don't know if you know what competitive eating is, right? Do you know what that means? So, to compete, of course, C-O-M-P-E-T-E. Compete means to like 比赛, right? To get in a competition, okay? But competitive here, of course, turns into a 形容词. Competitive eating means that people compete by eating, or they compete, they eat competitively, okay? So I don't know if they do this much in Taiwan, probably not. Yeah. Well, it takes a lot of practice. Most people can't just do it. They have to, get their stomach ready and make sure they can, eat enough food in a very quick time. I guess competitive eating, I was talking to my friends about this on Tuesday. There's really kind of two styles. One is like this. It's how much can you eat in a certain amount of time. But there's another kind that where you just go, how much can you eat, period, right? Like, how much can you eat? There's no time limit, just, well, maybe there is a time limit, but usually, probably. I can't imagine it's good for you, right? But yeah, it's pretty amazing. So anyhow, we call that competitive eating. It's like a 比赛 for eating. Okay, fans of this competitive eating crowded. Okay, they crowded together to watch, and this is probably the most famous hot dog eating contest probably in the world. It's called Nathan's, and I think Nathan's is the name of the company. Okay, Nathan's famous international hot dog eating contest. Now, in New York City, there's a famous area called Coney Island, and it's a place where there's a lot of amusement parks. You know, like what do they call it? 游乐场 or whatever they, you know. It's in New York City. You know, they have like the Ferris wheel and the roller coasters, and there's people go there for fun. When you say Coney Island, people usually think of a amusement park, a place to go to fun, just like you go out to, you know, Yemei or whatever, you know, in Taichung. So yeah, Coney Island. Okay, so let's read this together. At another long-standing celebration, fans of competitive eating crowded to watch Nathan's famous international hot dog eating contest. In the Coney Island section of New York City. Okay, so it says here, heavy downpours interrupted the contest, but after the pause, Joey Jaws Chestnut swallowed 62 francs and buns in 10 minutes. So then I'll read this. Yeah, okay, let's just read this. Okay, so you know what a downpour is, right? When it rains very hard, like Taiwan gets some serious big downpour sometimes where it just really comes down. It's like the water's poured down. So we say a down. Cats and dogs. Everybody seems to know that. It's raining cats and dogs. But yeah, we can just simply say a downpour. So why don't we say it together, downpour. Downpour. Okay, so the contest was interrupted, but after the pause means to stop briefly, right? You know, it used to be when you have your VCR, your tape recorder, you can pause it, right? You can, or even on your computer, you can pause it. Okay, Joey Jaws Chestnut. Now, of course, when we have this name here, this quotes means that this is his what? But what kind of name? We call this when we put a name in quotation marks, it usually means that is his nickname, right? So, you know, often, you know what a nickname is, right? It's like a funny name or other, not your official name, right? Sometimes when you're in school, your friends give you a nickname. Sometimes it's a good nickname. Sometimes it's not a good nickname. But here, jaws, what you said it earlier, jaws, what are jaws? This is your jaw, right? This part of your mouth that opens up, that's your jaw. This is actually your jawbone. So the funny thing is his nickname is Jaws, right? Why? Because probably he can open his mouth very, very wide to eat all these hot dogs. Okay, so they call him Jaws. Do you remember in the 1970s there was a very famous movie called Jaws, right? What was that movie about? Yeah, what is it? 大白虾. Yeah, it's a great white shark. So Jaws. So anyhow, his nickname is Jaws. So his name is Joey Jaws Chestnut. Swallowed 62 francs. Now, you might wonder, what's this? Okay. Yeah. So this comes from the word, and I think I'm spelling this correctly. Oops. I think I'm spelling this correctly. So it's a German sausage, 香肠, and we call it a Frankfurter. I think I'm spelling that right. But anyhow, if I'm not, let me know. But it's in America, these are very common. In fact, if you go to if you even go to the supermarket in Taiwan and look at some imported hot dogs, they might say Frankfurter. So it's a kind of sausage. So in America, often another word for hot dog is frank, like we eat franks. You know, like there's a dish that British and Americans, I think British like them too. We call that beans and franks. So beans is just like, you know, 豆子, right? And usually it's like that, you know how Americans eat beans, or British eat beans. It's that kind of, you know, sauce, right? And they may eat it with hot dogs or sausage. So beans and franks. But anyhow, here he swallowed 62 franks or hot dogs and buns. Not just a hot dog, but the bun too. You know, the bun, of course, is the 面包, right? So all of that in 10 minutes, which is crazy, right? I don't know how someone can get that much food into their stomach. But yeah, he did. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Have you ever watched this on TV? It's pretty crazy. They often they'll have they'll give them a big cup of lemonade, you know, 柠檬汁 or 汽水 or whatever, and they'll have it there. And I'm sure they can drink as much as they want. But often what they'll do, their strategy, they all have different strategies. They'll often take the bun, the 面包, and they'll put it in the drink, the water, because that makes it very loose. And then they eat it, because then the bread is not so dry. So they'll often dip it in there and then eat it. Everyone has their own 做法, right? Strategy. And you could do it any way you want. If you want to eat the hot dog and then eat the bun, or you want to eat them together or whatever, anything, but you have to eat it. So yeah. Okay. So it's very 很可怕, right? So anyhow, yeah, so let's read this together. Heavy downpours interrupted the contest, but after the pause, Joey Jaws Chestnut swallowed 62 franks and buns in 10 minutes. Right. Just one small note. Pause, of course, can be a 动词 or 名词. Here it's a 名词, like there was a pause. But you can say, I paused and waited for him. Okay. So it says here, what a roller coaster, emotionally, Chestnut said. Oh, that's a photo. Okay, well, anyhow, I thought that was part of it. So this is an interesting expression. Do you know what a roller coaster is? Okay. How do you say that in Chinese? So if you say, I am on an emotional roller coaster, what does that mean? Right. Your emotions are going up and down. One time you feel great, excited, and then you feel down and discouraged, and up and down and up and down. So this is a very common expression. You can say, right now, she is on an emotional roller coaster, or I'm on an emotional roller coaster. So he's saying, what a roller coaster emotionally. Okay. He feels up, down, up, down. Okay. So why don't we say that together? What a roller coaster. Roller coaster emotionally, Chestnut said. No, well, I doubt it. I think he's just probably, yeah, I don't think it's maybe just that time, but maybe he's just when he was preparing for this contest and getting ready and everything. So I don't know if the article mentions this, but I was reading, my friends and I were talking about, one of my French friends was saying, why would you do this, right? And I read an article yesterday. It says that he started competing, he quit his job his regular job about, 10 years ago to start competing. And his early contest, the prize was like 1,000,000块美金. But today, he's valued, his personal worth is over $4 million US. 400万美金. That's how much money he has, because he's been doing this. He makes money from competing like this. Now, I'm sure that not everyone who does this is going to make that much money, but he's number one, right? So he can make a lot of money, become a millionaire by eating competitively. Oh, probably. Yeah. But I think, he's most famous for this. Only time I see his name is for this eating competition, specifically this one. Okay. So here we go. It says the 39-year-old from Westfield, Indiana, first competed for the title in 2005 and has not lost since 2015. Okay, actually, I want to mention something. The guy before him that was number one, do you know where he was from? Very interesting. He was from Japan. Yeah, he was this little guy from Japan. He would go to New York every year and he would win. His I forget his last name, Yamashita or something like that. But anyhow, he was very, very good. I mean, and he was a skinny guy, this little guy, and he would just go crazy eating these hot dogs. So anyhow, I think this guy took the championship from the Japanese guy. The Japanese guy won for many years. Okay, so let's read this. So he's from Indiana, the state of Indiana. Okay, so he competed for the title. The title means like the championship, the crown, the prize, the gold medal. Okay, the 39-year-old from Westfield, Indiana, first competed for the title in 2005 and has not lost since 2015. 2015. I don't know if they have a picture here, but if you look at this guy, he's not big. He's pretty muscular, but he's not fat. Let me put it that way. And the funny thing is there's a women's category too in this contest. And if you look at the women who win it, they're not big either. They're pretty small. In fact, they're Asian women. I don't know why. Maybe they have some special skill. But there was a Korean American woman who won this for many years, and she was tiny. I was just like, where does all this food go? So yeah, it's pretty funny. Yeah, I don't know. So yeah. Okay, so anyhow, let's keep reading. It says the unsettled weather moved on before the start of Macy's annual 4th of July fireworks show, which launched about 60,000 pyrotechnics into the sky, bursting in bouquets of colorful light over New York City's East River. Okay, so what does unsettled mean? Unsteady, unstable, not 不稳定的, right? So we can use this to describe here, of course, it's weather. Like we could say recently the weather's been a little bit unsettled, but you can also say it's someone's emotions. You could say his statement unsettled me, or that unsettled me. It makes me feel uneasy, like uncomfortable. So if it's not stable, it's not settled, something makes you upset, we can say he felt unsettled. Means a little bit 紧张. Okay, so here, of course, let's read this together. Unsettled. Unsettled. Right, because to settle means to make stable, right? To settle down, to calm down. But here it's unsettled. Okay, so the unsettled weather moved on. It means it went somewhere else. It disappeared. Before the start of Macy's every year annual 4th of July fireworks show, which launched about 60,000 pyrotechnics. Okay, this is a word we sometimes see it's another word for fireworks. Because pyro, P-Y-R-O, usually refers to fire explosions, like explosions. So someone who is an expert on explosives is often called, I think it's called a pyrotechnician. They handle explosives, things that blow up, like fireworks or bombs, So pyrotechnics would be another another slightly different word for fireworks. So why don't we say together pyrotechnics? Pyrotechnics. So that's pretty amazing. Liu Wan, right? 60,000 fireworks, okay, into the sky. Launch, of course, means to shoot, or to, obviously can mean begin, but here it means to shoot into the air. Launched about 60,000 pyrotechnics. Bursting. Bursting means, what's another word for bursting? Exploding, right? You can say, or to come out, to blow up, to burst. Now, of course, other things can burst. Like if you have a balloon, it can burst. If you are carrying a bag, let's say you're carrying a bag of fruit from the store, and suddenly the bag bursts, it breaks open, right? So it can mean to explode or to break open. So why don't we say together, bursting? Bursting. Okay, now here's a fun word, bouquet. Now, of course, this is originally a French word, so we don't pronounce the T. We just say bouquet, like K-A-Y, bouquet. What is a bouquet? Yes, a bunch of flowers. So, if you buy a bouquet of roses for somebody, it's a bunch of roses, 玫瑰花. If you go to the store and you say, I want a bouquet of flowers, okay? So that's called a bouquet. Why don't we say together bouquet? Bouquet. So why do they say bursting in bouquets of colorful light? Why would they say that? Yeah. When you look at fireworks, what is it? It blows up like this, right? It kind of looks like a bouquet sometimes. So when you think of the fireworks, it opens up like a bouquet of flowers. So it looks like a bouquet. So here it's a bouquet of what? Colorful light over New York City's East River. Okay, that's, again, one of the main rivers in New York. Okay, so let's read this together. The unsettled weather. Okay, again, unsettled weather moved on before the start of Macy's annual 4th of July fireworks show. Fireworks show, which launched about 60,000 pyrotechnics into the sky, bursting in bouquets of colorful light over New York City's East River. Okay, so let's go on. It says New York was not the only state where weather factored into events. The 10-kilometer Atlanta Journal-Constitution Peachtree Road Race that typically draws thousands of runners in humid summer weather was cut short because of possible thunderstorms. Okay. So that's a very long name for a race. But anyhow, here it says, New York was not only a state where weather factored into events. Now, if you say, what is factor as a 名词? Factor, F-A-C-T-O-R. What does that mean? What? Yeah, it's kind of like how do we say this? It's like a piece of something, right? So it could be like, I'll give you an example. You can say there were many factors in my decision to move my house, okay? It means there were many different aspects. There were many different items, or, so maybe a good word is an aspect of something. Do you know the word aspect? I don't know. What? Yeah, it's like, I think you use the word different sides, different facets. We've had facets, sides, So when you make a decision, you will consider many factors, right? For example, if I say, I want to move house, but what factors should I consider? Well, is the new house going to be bigger than my old house? How much rent am I paying? Is it in a good location? Those are different factors, right? Different items, different things, different aspects that I will consider. Does everybody understand that? Okay. So we can say there were many factors in his decision, or there are many sides to his decision. But here, factor becomes a 动词, right? So you can say the weather factored into events. What does that mean? It means weather became a factor in this event. If the weather was perfect, if the weather was great, we wouldn't even think about the weather, right? We'd be like, yeah, great. But now the weather is a factor. So you can say, for example, high rent factored into my decision to not move my house. High rent became a factor. So we say it factored into my decision. So when something becomes a factor, then it factored into something. Factored into an event, factored into my decision. Does that make sense? Everybody understand? Okay. So it says here, let's read this together. New York was not the only state where weather factored into events. Okay, factored into events. Okay, now here, this is a very long name, but I believe Atlanta Journal-Constitution is the name of a newspaper. When I see that name, to me that says that's a newspaper. Obviously the name Journal, but yeah, so that's probably the name of a newspaper. And then Peachtree Road is a very famous road in Atlanta, the city of Atlanta, which is in Georgia. Okay, so it's the name of this race. It's the Atlanta Journal-Constitution Peachtree Road race. 比赛. It's 10 kilometers, 10公里. Typically usually draws thousands of runners in humid. Now, of course, Taiwan is famous for humid weather, right? Humid summer weather was cut short, was shortened. We could say it was shortened. It was cut short because of possible thunderstorms. Of course, if you're outside running, you don't want a thunderstorm because what? You might get hit by what? Lightning, right? Lightning, yeah, you don't want that to happen. Yeah, especially in the summer, that's very dangerous. Okay, so let's read this together. The 10-kilometer Atlanta Journal-Constitution Peachtree Road race that typically draws thousands of runners in humid summer weather was cut short because of possible thunderstorms. Thunderstorms. Right. Okay. Now, of course, I'm sure you probably know this, but draws of simply means to attract. You know, attracts. Not yeah. So it attracts thousands of, brings thousands of runners. Okay. Okay. Farther north, a fireworks show in Yankton, South Dakota, was postponed because lightning prevented crews from setting up the display. Okay, let's read these two together. In Nebraska, the Omaha Symphony's Independence Day celebration that includes a concert and fireworks show was also postponed. What's another word for postpone? Delay, right? D-E-L-A-Y, to delay, to postpone, right? Often things get postponed or delayed. Okay, so you can see here that weather is actually is a big factor in these delays. Okay, so South Dakota, of course, is a state in the northern central part of the United States near Canada. But there's South Dakota and North Dakota. North Dakota is next to Canada, but South Dakota, North Dakota. I don't know if you've ever flown across the United States on an airplane maybe from the West Coast to the East Coast. When you fly over this part of the country, it's pretty amazing because there's just nothing there. I mean, it's amazing. You can fly for hours and you look down and you just see mountains and it's dry, usually quite dry in many places, and there's rivers. And you're looking, where are the people? And there's nothing. It's just, it looks like there's nobody down there, right? When I think of South Dakota and North Dakota, it's like, I mean, it's beautiful, but there's just nothing there, nobody there. So anyhow, yeah, I have a couple times. It's beautiful because you look down and you can just see this deep gorge. You know, it's very dry. It's like desert, you know, Samoa. And then you see this gorge that just goes and it winds around, and it's you can see even from the air, you can see how deep it is. But it's even better when you go there in person because you can look down into it, and yeah, it's beautiful. If you have a chance to go to the Dashaku, right? It's the Grand Canyon. It's pretty amazing. But yeah, I always enjoy flying over America because you just see how it's just this enormous place, and when you, especially the central part of the United States, there's nothing there. I mean, I shouldn't say nothing. There's lots of things there. It's beautiful, but there's very few people there. You'll see a town there, and then you'll see maybe way off a city over there, but otherwise it's just open. And if you see roads, they tend to be really long and straight. Like they'll just go on for dozens of kilometers, and it's just straight road, just straight, keep going. I remember driving across Nebraska with my family, and it's all cornfields and wheat fields. They grow corn and wheat, and the roads are just super straight. They just go on and on and on. They're straight. And I remember my father joking that the road is so straight that if you look, you can see tomorrow. So yeah. So anyhow, it says, for the north, a fireworks show was postponed because lightning prevented the crews from setting up the display. Of course, if you have a fireworks display, you don't want to have lightning hitting that fireworks display because it could trigger it. It could set it off. Okay. And then in Nebraska, you know where Nebraska, I just mentioned Nebraska. It's also in the Midwest, in the central part of the United States. Very famous for growing corn. So the main city is Omaha, and it's Omaha Symphony. This is like their orchestra, 交响乐团. Independence Day celebration was also postponed. Okay, so let's read this. Farther north, a fireworks show in Yankton, South Dakota was postponed because lightning prevented crews from setting up the display. In Nebraska, the Omaha Symphony's Independence Day celebration that includes a concert and fireworks shows was also postponed. Let's say this word again, symphony. Symphony. Yeah, often we say symphony orchestra, right? Orchestra is like a 交响乐团, but yeah, we say symphony orchestra, or sometimes it depends. Sometimes they'll simply say symphony, not sympathy, and then orchestra. Okay, so let's say it again, orchestra. Orchestra. Yeah, okay. Okay, so then it goes on. We're kind of jumping around the country here. It says, New Orleans residents welcomed rain and slightly cooler conditions after days of heat and humidity baked the city. Okay, now you know bake is like to cow, right? So if you say the heat, Taichung is baking in the heat, it means it's very hot, and it's just, baking the city. Okay, so here they actually like it. They're happy that there's rain and slightly cooler weather after this really, really hot and humid weather. Taiwan is very, very hot and humid. But if you go to the East Coast of the United States and the South, it can be super humid too, very humid. Because very, you can sweat a lot. Whereas if you go to the West, it usually tends to be more dry. Okay, so let's read this together. New Orleans residents welcome rain and slightly cooler conditions after days of heat and humidity baked the city. Okay. It says here, the General Roy S. Kelly fireboat was returning to New Orleans riverfront for a patriotic water show, sending streams of red, white, and blue water into the air. Okay, I don't know how they make the water red, white, and blue. I guess they add dye to it. I don't know. I hope that's environmentally friendly. But this is a fireboat. I don't know. This is a very unusual boat. I don't know if you know what a fireboat is. But yeah, exactly. So in some places where you have a gangko, right, and many big ships, what happens if there's a fire on a ship, right? There's a special boat that can shoot water onto that ship and put it out. But I've seen this too, where these fireboats get used if there's a fire along the water, like in a warehouse or a factory. The fireboats can also shoot water onto the land to put out the fire. So we call that a fireboat. So this is the name of this fireboat. This fireboat is named after a general, I guess the Army general maybe or something. So it's called the General Roy S. Kelly fireboat. was returning to New Orleans riverfront. Now, of course, riverfront is like the front of the river, like the river bank, okay, for a patriotic water show. Now, you know the word patriotic, right? If you love your country, we say you are very patriotic, or you like to show your love for your country. It's very patriotic. So why don't we say together, patriotic. Patriotic. And if you are the person who loves your country, then you are a patriot, right? Okay, you can say, I'm a great patriot. Means I love my country. So that's one more time, patriot. Okay, so patriotic water show, sending streams, of course, streams like a river or a flow of red, white, and blue water into the air. So it's shooting this water up into the air in these colors. I'd be very curious to know how they make the water that color. Okay, so let's read this together. The General Roy S. Kelly fireboat was returning to New Orleans riverfront for a patriotic water show, sending streams of red, white, and blue water into the air. Okay. So, again, still moving around America here. The Colorado towns and suburbs of Estes Park, Golden, and Highlands Ranch canceled fireworks celebrations after thunderstorm alerts were issued. Okay, another cancellation. Okay, so you know where Colorado is, right? It's in the southwest part of the United States. There's always 4 states that I kind of clump together. There's Colorado. South of that is what state? Does anyone know? What's south of Colorado? See? Not quite. No, you're close. You're getting closer. New Mexico. Yeah, New Mexico. So, yeah. And then, I'm testing your geography here, American geography. To the west, so if you're looking at a map on the left side of Colorado, what state is that? There's not quite. Not California's a little bit further west. What's next to Colorado? Utah. Very good. So Utah, and then what's south of Utah? I just met yes, Arizona. Yeah. So I just met somebody, a guy, he's studying Chinese out in Dadu of all places in Taichung, but he's from Arizona. So yeah, you have those 4 states. I always kind of cluster them together. It's Colorado, New Mexico, Utah, and Arizona. And then, of course, to the west, that is Nevada and California. Yeah. So beautiful places, really nice. Okay. So here, of course, we have towns and suburbs. You know, and we talked about this many times. Suburb is the area outside the city, right? Or outside the town. Okay. So let's read this together. The Colorado towns and suburbs of Estes Park, Golden and Highlands Ranch canceled fireworks celebrations after thunderstorm alerts were issued. Okay, you know what a ranch is, right? It's like a farm for cows or cattle. It could be other, I guess it's usually cattle. It's usually like cows, but we call that a ranch. It's like a special farm. Okay. Now, of course, this is not a real ranch. This is the name of a place. Okay, so it says here, severe weather warnings scuttled Independence Day travel plans at Denver International Airport, where at least 290 flights were delayed and 171 canceled. Among the most flights affected in the nation, FlightAware data showed. Okay, so Denver, of course, is the largest city in Colorado, right? So here's the severe weather. And when we talk about severe weather, it means bad weather. Sometimes in Taiwan, I go on the website, cwb.gov, TW, and it says severe rain warning or severe, whatever. But when you see the word severe, it means it's serious, it's bad. Okay, so severe weather warning scuttled Independence Day travel plans. Now, this is a great word. What does to scuttle mean? It comes from a very specific thing, okay, setting. So I'll tell you what it means. If you have a boat or a ship and you decide to sink that ship on purpose, okay? So, people don't normally do this, but sometimes you hear about a story where they have a ship and they want to sink the ship. They will scuttle. It means sometimes there's actually a hole, you open it up and the water comes in, the ship sinks or the boat sinks. You scuttling a ship means to sink it. So here, when you say scuttled, means it's another word for canceled. 取消, or it means it ended it, it stopped it, okay? So if you say my plans were scuttled by the bad weather, it means my plans were canceled, okay? They were sunk, like a ship sinks, right? They were done for. So it's a word that comes from boats and ships, 船, but it's now used for many things like this, to cancel something. Okay, so why don't we say it together? Scuttled. Scuttled. Okay. So severe weather warning scuttled Independence Day travel plans. Okay, this interrupted travel plans at Denver International Airport. And so there were a lot of flights delayed or canceled. Okay, so let's read this. Severe weather warning scuttled Independence Day travel plans at Denver International Airport, where at least 290 flights were delayed and 171 canceled. Among the most flights affected in the nation, flight-aware data showed. So I'll give you a good piece of advice. I learned this myself a few years ago. They say in America, if you're going to travel, especially in the summertime, if you're going to fly, make sure you start your travel as early as possible in the morning. So if you have a choice, maybe you look at you're looking at the website and you have a choice between leaving at 6:30 in the morning or 11:30 in the morning. Always pick the 6:30 in the morning. I hate getting up in the morning. I don't like getting up early. But even so, I'll still pick the 6:30. Why? Because everyone knows this. In America, as the day goes on, there's more and more thunderstorms, especially in the summertime. And when you have thunderstorms, what happens? Flights get canceled and delayed. So that means that if you're flying let's say you're flying from San Francisco to Chicago and then from Chicago to New York, if you start late, maybe your flight that's coming into San Francisco is delayed, or maybe your flight in Chicago is delayed, or something's delayed, and then maybe you miss your next flight. And this happens all the time. People miss their flights because planes are delayed and all kinds of trouble. So again, the best advice is start as early as possible because then there's less delays. Because the thunderstorms always come in the afternoon, almost always. In America, in the summertime, this happens all the time. Lightning. It's a little bit like this. It's clear in the morning, and then the afternoon, the weather gets bad. So anyhow, that's my travel advice to you. So, yeah. Okay, so it says here, U.S. President Joe Biden hosted a barbecue for military families at the White House, which was decked out with red, white, and blue bunting and big U.S. flags draped over the columns facing the South Lawn. Okay, so there's a couple words here. First of all, of course, he has a barbecue for military families. These are families of soldiers and sailors, people who are in the military. So the White House was decked out. What does decked out mean? What's another word for decked out? I'll give you a clue. It sounds very similar to the word decked out. Yes, decorated. So if we simply say decorated, okay, so that's an E, and that's a C. Decorated is decked out. Now, we can use decked out for yourself, right? If you say, I was wearing something, it usually means wearing something that was attractive, right? So you can say, she was decked out in a new dress for the party, okay? So it's almost like someone decorates themselves. He was decked out in a three-piece suit, or brand new, shoes. It means to wear something very attractive or nice. But here, of course, it means decorated. When you make something look very beautiful, you deck out something. So let's say together, decked out. Decked out. Decorated. Decorated. Okay, so it was decked out with what? With red, white, and blue bunting. Now, this is a very specific word, and you may have seen this or not, but when sometimes you see decorations, like especially on buildings and walls, and you see these cloths that are draped, and they have colors, maybe they have these colors, and you have them like this, and it's usually cloth, 布, and it comes in many different colors. We call this bunting. It's a very specific word, and I don't know of almost any. This is the only place we use it. I know when we used to have 美国国庆日 parties for AmCham, we would take red, white, and blue cloth, and we would put on the 舞台, the stage, to make it look nice. So it's called bunting. Anyhow, let's say together, bunting. Bunting. Now, bunt has a whole different word meaning to it. For some of you may know this word if you enjoy baseball. It's a totally different word. But and I don't know how you say it in Chinese, but in baseball, when you're up to bat, to the batter, sometimes the batter will they'll bunt they won't hit the ball, they'll bunt it. They'll slide their hand up to the front and they'll hit the ball so the ball just goes down in front of them. You know what I'm talking about? So instead of hitting the ball as hard as they can, they just tap the ball and the ball falls down in front and then they run, right? I don't know what you call that in Chinese. 短打. Oh, so that makes sense. Short hit, right? Yeah. So bunt is actually a 动词 for 短打, right? So you say he bunted the ball. Okay. So it's a totally different meaning, but it's spelled the same way, B-U-N-T, as a 动词. Okay. So anyhow, red, white, and blue bunting and big U.S. flags draped over the columns. Okay. So drape means to hang something over something, right? Often when you hear the word drape, it almost always refers to cloth, 布. When you drape something, you can say, I draped my coat over the chair. Okay, means I hung my coat over the chair. He draped the cloth over the desk, okay, or the table to kind of cover something with a cloth. We call it to drape something. Now, the word drape also gets used for curtains. You know what a curtain is? Okay, so you have curtains in your windows, right? So, or most windows. So often we call those drapes. Sorry, that's an A. Drapes. So when you have curtains hanging in your windows, we can say, I'm buying new drapes for my windows. Same idea, okay, but it's that cloth that's hanging there. So anyhow, the big U.S. flags are draped over columns. Now, a column, of course, is, in a building, when you have a building, you have columns, these big columns, right? Here's the roof. And often the columns are very thick, right? We call those columns. So these posts that support the roof, they're called columns. Sorry, my drawing is not very good. So why don't we say it together, columns. Columns. Okay. The White House has these very big columns in the front. So they had U.S. flags hanging or draped over these columns. Okay. Does everybody understand that? Any questions? Okay. Okay. So let's just say these words here too. Curtains. Curtains. Drapes. Drapes. Bunting. Bunting. Okay. So there's lots of decoration words here. Okay, so let's read this together. U.S. President Joe Biden hosted a barbecue for military families at the White House, which was decked out with red, white, and blue bunting. Bunting. and big U.S. flags draped over the columns facing the south lawn. Okay, lawn is another word for a yard. Okay, so, we often say many American houses have very big lawns. Okay, one of the summer jobs that teenagers really hate is their parents make them mow the lawn, right? Seriously, if you're a teenager, you're on summer vacation, you want to hang out with your friends, and your father says, yes, but first you need to mow the lawn. And that can take a long time, right? If it's very hot and you have to, push that mower across the lawn, that could take you an hour or so, and it's very, very hot, doing that. So yeah, mowing the lawn. That's something that most Taiwanese don't have to do, is mow the lawn, because we live in apartments, right? But in America, it's very, very common. Some people buy a lawnmower you can sit on it, you can drive it, so it's fast, it's easier, you can go faster. But most people, when they mow the lawn, they still have to push the lawnmower, and it's good exercise, I guess. And actually, a lot of American students, they do this as a summer job. So maybe there's someone who's older, they don't want to do it themselves. They'll pay people, teenagers, to mow their lawns, to do that job, to cut the grass. Okay. Because if you don't mow your lawn, the grass will grow up very fast. And then if you let it grow too much, and this is very common in America, your neighbors will complain. This is very funny. Again, I think it's very interesting. These are different kinds of relationships. In Taiwan, I don't think most people really care too much about their neighbors, what they do. But in America, your neighbors will complain if your house is you don't take care of it, right? If you let your grass grow up too high, or your car is parked outside too much, or you have too much stuff parked, in front of your house, they will complain. They will, and sometimes there's like a like a committee for that community, and they'll come and talk to you, say you need to take care of that. Yeah. So it's an interesting situation. Okay, so it says here, Biden told the crowd how grateful he was for their service and talked about how important it was to work to unify the nation. Democracy is never guaranteed, Biden said. Every generation must fight to maintain it. Okay, so of course, to maintain something means to do what? What do you maintain? Take care of it, right? To keep it going. So you have to maintain your car, otherwise it'll probably stop running. You have to maintain a building, otherwise it might fall down or there might be problems. But here he's saying we need to maintain our democracy, 民主. Okay, so let's read this together. Biden told the crowd how grateful he was for their service, and talked about how important it was to work to unify the nation. Democracy is never guaranteed. Guaranteed, Biden said. Every generation must fight to maintain it. Maintain it. Right. Okay, so then it says, later, the Bidens watched fireworks from the White House balcony with thousands of guests on the lawn as Louis Armstrong's version of America the Beautiful played over loudspeakers. Okay, loudspeakers like a lapa. America's national anthem, what is that, 国歌, is actually, the Star Spangled Banner, you've probably heard this song before. But a lot of people say this song is the unofficial anthem of the United States. And some people prefer this song. In fact, a lot of people say this should have been our national anthem. It's called America the Beautiful. Nice song. But anyhow, so yeah, this is a song you'll often hear people sing or say, during the 国庆日. But it says the Bidens, of course, him and his wife Jill, watched the fireworks from the White House balcony. And what's a balcony? What's this? Yeah, so I don't think there's any balconies in here. To me, if I have an apartment, I have to have a balcony. I think that's very important. I like to go outside in the air, open air, and look outside. So why don't we say together, balcony? Balcony. Okay, so there were thousands of guests on the lawn, on the grass. And then Louis Armstrong, do you know who this is? He's a very famous American jazz 爵士 musician. Okay, I don't think he's alive anymore. I don't think so. But anyhow, he's very, very famous. Louis, we say Louis. Actually, a lot of people say Louis Armstrong. Louis, same thing. Armstrong, his version of America. So he was singing this song, and it was played over the loudspeakers. Okay, so let's read this. Later, the Bidens watched fireworks from the White House balcony with thousands of guests on the lawn. As Louis Armstrong's version of America the Beautiful played over loudspeakers. Okay. Okay. So it says here, many people embraced the holiday with whimsy and a sense of community. In Hannibal, Missouri, the hometown of Mark Twain, the 4th of July weekend coincides with the National Tom Sawyer's Days. Fence painting and frog jumping contests were held. So this is very, Americans are a little bit weird. Okay, so yeah. So anyhow, here we have, this is funny. Okay, so embrace. What does the word embrace mean? Right, but what does the original word mean? If you say you embrace, hug, right? So if you embrace somebody, you can say she embraced her daughter. Okay, it means to hug, H-U-G, hug. Okay, embrace. So in America, we like to embrace each other. When we say goodbye or say hello, we embrace people. We hug them. Okay, so why don't we say together, embraced? Embraced. But here, of course, it means slightly something different. If you embrace, of course, you cannot hug a holiday, right? So what does this mean? Enjoy. Yeah, it means you participate, you enjoy it, you do. So you can say, you can embrace. There's many things you can embrace. You can even embrace your own beliefs. For example, you can say he embraced his idea of his belief in Christianity, or Buddhism or whatever. It means he really fully accepted and enjoyed and participated in something. Okay. So here, of course, they're embracing this holiday. They're fully celebrating and participating in something. But like I said, you can embrace a religious belief or any other 主义, right? Any sort of idea you have, embrace something. So yeah, it's a very good word. It's a broad word. So here they say many people embrace the holiday with whimsy. Now, I think I've taught you a word before that is probably, well, definitely more common. It's a 形容词. It's the word whimsical. Whimsical. Now, whimsical is simply another word. It's a longer word, but it simply means it's a word that means fun. It's fun. 好玩的, So if you say whimsical, but I guess let me say this. It means fun, but also playful. It's not just 好玩的, but it's playful. You can have a good time. It's kind of funny. It's fun or funny or playful. So sometimes we talk about a whimsical celebration or a whimsical movie or a whimsical story. It means it's kind of funny and it's kind of playful and it's kind of enjoyable. So it's kind of in a very lighthearted way. So when we say whimsy, this word whimsical actually comes from the word whimsy. It means with a sense of fun and playfulness. Everyone's having a good time. It's 好玩的. Yeah. Does everybody understand that? Whimsy, whimsical. Okay, so why don't we say this together? Whimsy, whimsy, whimsical, whimsical. Okay, so they embrace the holiday with whimsy. So usually when we talk about something being whimsical, it's a little bit, it's kind of funny, but in an unusual way. Like it's a little bit weird, but in a fun way, in a playful way. Okay, unusual. Sometimes, he does some 奇怪的东西, but he usually acts like he's joking. He's kind of like 开玩笑, he does stuff. So yeah, a person can be whimsical. So yeah, it's a little bit, unusual. So with whimsy and a sense of community, of course, the sense of community means we're trying to bring the community together. Okay, so this town or city in Missouri, this is another state, Missouri, which is right in the middle of the United States. Hannibal is very famous. This town is very connected to Mark Twain. And I think you know who Mark Twain is, right? Very famous American writer. And he wrote a very famous book called Tom Sawyer, right? Have any of you read Tom Sawyer? Okay. It's a book that almost all American school children have to read. It's the story of Tom Sawyer and his friend. Does anyone know his friend's name? Huckleberry Finn. Okay. So let me just write that down. This is all, it seems like most Americans know these names. I hope I'm spelling this correctly, but Huckleberry Finn, okay? So these two characters, they're both boys growing up in America, and this takes place over 150 years ago, and they have lots of adventures. They do a lot of fun things together. They get into trouble together. But this Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, these two are very, very well known. Okay, so because of Mark Twain. Of course, Mark Twain wrote many stories, but yeah. So anyhow, he's connected to this town of Hannibal, Missouri. So, it's his hometown. So it says here, the 4th of July weekend coincides with the National Tom Sawyer Days. Okay, this is a special day. It's called the National Tom Sawyer Days. I guess it's more than one day. But what's this word here mean, coincides with? Yes, it's a very, and this is a good word to know because we use this quite a bit. If something coincides with something else, it means it happens at the same time. Okay, coincides. If two things happen at the same time or together, do you know the word coincidence, right? What does coincidence mean? So yeah, something that happens by chance, maybe at the same time with something else. So you can say, by coincidence, I ran into my high school friend at the department store. I haven't seen him in 30 years. But it was a coincidence that he was there and I was there at the same time. Okay? So a coincidence, something that happens by chance, right? So from that word, it's kind of this idea, coincides with, it means it's happening at the same time. Yeah, so anyhow, there's another word that's slightly different, but if you say this happens at the same time as that, I've taught you this word before. We say concurrently. Okay, you can say my show concurrently or concurrent with something else. It means it's happening at the same time, concurrently. Okay, but coincidence is a very good word. I'm sure you've had different kinds of coincidences in your life before, right? Where it's just something happened by chance and you're like, wow, I can't believe that happened. I told you about when I was flying back from Okinawa, Tongshan, and the pilot, the captain of the airplane, knew who I was. And I was like, what? How do I know you? He went to 马里顺美国学校. He was a student there when I was a teacher there. And I was walking off the plane and he said, hi, Mr. Habeck. And I was completely shocked. I was like, how do you know who I am, right? And so it was a coincidence that he was flying the airplane at that time when I was on the plane. Okay, so why don't we say this together? Coincides with. Coincides with. And then that word, coincidence. coincidence. And then the other word, concurrently. Concurrently. Right. Coincidence is a noun, right? This is a coincidence, or it was a coincidence. Okay, so this 4th of July weekend coincides with, it happens at the same time as National Tom Sawyer Days. Fence painting and frog jumping contests were held. Now, why would they do these things, okay? You're probably thinking, right, Tom Sawyer did this, okay? In the book Tom Sawyer, there's some famous parts of the book where he's painting a fence, this fence, and he's painting it whitewashing. He's making it white. And I forget exactly what happens, but something happens. There's something that happens when he's painting this fence. So, you know, American houses often will have a fence. You know what a fence is, right? It's like a wooden wall, but it's not like a full changbi. You know, like often when I think of a fence, I think of this white fence, and then it has the, you know, like that, and it just goes around the house, right? So he was painting the fence, okay? So fence painting, but then what's this? Frog jumping contests, and they really take frogs, you know, Qinghua, and they see which one can jump further, you know. Everyone has their own frog. Like I bring my frog and you bring your frog, and we see whose frogs can jump further, right? It's a 比赛. So yeah, you're thinking, wow, this 美国人很奇怪, right? Why are they doing this? You know, this is very strange. Okay, so anyhow, let's read this together then. Many people embrace the holiday with whimsy and a sense of community. In Hannibal, Missouri, the hometown of Mark Twain, the 4th of July weekend coincides with National Tom Sawyer Days. Okay, let's say that part again. National Tom Sawyer Days. Fence painting and frog jumping contests were held. Okay. So, Altoona, Iowa dubbed its celebration Carnival. In addition to the nod to the nation's birthday, the festival marks the 100th anniversary of the first acre, or 0.4 hectares, of commercial hybrid seed corn grown and harvested in Altoona in 1923. Okay, so you know corn is yumi, right? You know what this word comes from, of course. What are they trying to say? This is a joke, kind of, on the word carnival. And what is a carnival? Carnival. What is a carnival? 嘉南, what is it? 嘉年华. Yeah, there we go. 嘉年华. So we say a carnival. There's many kinds of carnivals, right? Even in Taiwan. But here they took the word carnival and they changed this to corn, right? Yumi, right? So they turned it to carnival. Okay, so it's kind of funny. So why don't we say that word over there? Carnival. Carnival. You know, in Bashi every year they have a very famous carnival, right? But yeah, here it says, now we've learned this word before, but the word to dub, what's another word for dub? Yeah, called, named. Okay, so they named their celebration Carnival. So you can say he was dubbed by a new nickname. He was dubbed, this event was dubbed, you know, it means it was named. Okay, so it says here, in addition to the nod to the nation's birthday. Now, this is a very interesting expression, a nod to something. Nod means to nod your head, right? Like to say yes to something, right? But so here it says a nod to something. When you say to give a nod to something, it means to recognize something, to say, oh, yes, that's what it is. So in a nod to this, they did this, okay? So I'm trying to think of a good example. But basically, it's to recognize something that's happening, okay? So in addition to, besides recognizing the nation's birthday, America's birthday. The festival, this Carnival festival, marks or remembers or marks the 100th anniversary of the first acre. Now, in Taiwan we use gongqing, right? Hectare. We use this term here, hectare, gongqing. But in America, 美国, they still use the word acre. An acre is a different measurement. Just like America uses feet and inches and miles. So we use acres instead of hectares, okay? So the first acre of commercial, this is 商业, 商业 for sale, hybrid seed corn. Now, seed corn, of course, is corn you plant in the ground to grow corn, of course, seed corn. It's some corn you eat, right? But some corn you planted. It's for planting, not for eating. So we call that seed corn. And hybrid seed corn, of course, hybrid is what? When we take two things or more and we put them together. What? Yeah, like in mix. Yeah, like a mix. So, yeah, crossbred, to crossbreed, to breed, to put two things. Like often, I'm sure you've noticed this word on cars in Taiwan, right? Many cars say hybrid. Okay, and what does that mean? It means and gas operated. So it's together. Electricity, 电动, and also gas together. Not just one, but both together. So it's a hybrid. It's a combination, a mix of those two things. So here we have this hybrid seed corn. Okay, so hybrid is a very scientific word. We use it for science. If we bring like a hybrid fruit. In Taiwan we have this kind of in English we call it a pear apple. It's like it's like a 梨子, but it's not like a 梨子. It's like a 梨子and an apple, 苹果 together. It's how do you say it? It's like 咖啡色 on the outside, very sweet. Maybe they grow it in Taiwan a lot. Some of them get very big. They're very delicious. It's not a 梨子 and it's not a 苹果. It's, yeah, maybe. Sorry, I forget the Chinese name. But they're very popular here. They look like giant apples, but they're not apples. So, and the flavor is a little bit like a pear. Anyhow, we call that a pear apple. I think that is maybe a hybrid fruit. Like they brought the two kinds of fruit together. It's a pear apple. Pear, P-E-A-R, pear, 梨子, right? Peach is 桃子, right? Yeah, Tao. Yeah. Okay. Anyhow, that's what it means. So, any questions on this? Okay. Sorry, I'm going to go home and look that up. So, what? Not a mango. Not a mango. Not a mango. Well, mangoes are great. I love mangoes. Last night I had a mango being chopping. Yeah. But yeah, this fruit, it's called, in English we call it a pear apple, but I don't know what the Chinese name is. I have to check on that. Okay, I'll let you know next time. Okay, so let's read this together. Altoona, Iowa, dubbed its celebration Carnival. Carnival. In addition to the nod to the nation's birthday, the festival marks the 100th anniversary let's say it again, 100th anniversary of the first acre, 0.4 hectares of commercial hybrid seed corn grown and harvested in Altoona in 1923. Okay. So anyhow, there's so many funny things going on in America in the summer, at July 4th in the summertime. And it's fun. You can go out, if you like they said here, if you drive across America and you go to all these different states, they have all these different kinds of activities. So it's kind of fun. If you ever get a chance, maybe you can go and check it out. Go celebrate American Independence Day and see what kind. Oh, here's the guy. This is the guy that won the hot dog eating contest. So you can see he's not fat, right? He's not huge. He's a pretty normal looking guy. So yeah. Yeah, there's the fireworks in New York. So yeah, lots of fun. Okay, so let's go to a different story. We still have a little bit of time. I thought this one was very interesting. Any questions about July 4th? Does anyone have any questions they want to, or anything they're curious about? Maybe, okay. Okay, so I noticed this article right away. It's a short article, but it says, diplomat bids farewell in Haklo. Does anyone know what Haklo is? Haklo is the English word that we often use for Taiyu or Minanyu. Okay, so we often say, now often we'll say Taiwanese, right? But the technical word for it is Haklo. So if someone says, oh, I speak Haklo, that means Minanyu, right? Or Taiyu, right? So let's say together, Haklo. Haklo. Now don't get this confused with Hakka, right? Hakka, H-K-K-A. Hakka is Ke Hua or Ke Ren, right? Okay, so to bid farewell means to say goodbye, right? You can say, I bid him farewell. That's often we say that bid farewell. We use those two words together, okay? So let's see what happens here. I thought this is interesting. It says, Australian representative to Taiwan, Jenny Bloomfield, on Tuesday, bid farewell to Taiwan in a message recorded in Haklo, also known as Taiwanese, after serving for more than 2 years in the nation. So she's leaving, but she said goodbye. Her message, her speech, was in Taiyu, which I thought was really impressive, right? In Tai, Holowei. Okay, so that's probably where this word comes from. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So yeah. So let's read this together. Australian representative to Taiwan, Jenny Bloomfield, on Tuesday bid farewell to Taiwan in a message recorded in Haklo. Haklo, also known as Taiwanese. After serving for more than 2 years in the nation. Okay. It says, foreign diplomats stationed in Taipei often post videos containing farewell messages, but they are usually in their mother tongues or in Mandarin. Now, of course, Mandarin is another word for 普通话 or 国语 or 中文 or whatever you want to call it. But a mother tongue, what is a mother tongue? 母语, right? So we say mother tongue. Now, you might think, well, tongue is your tongue, but tongue can also be used as a word for language. You can say, what tongue do they speak? Or their native tongue or their mother tongue is English. Okay, so that word tongue, which is normally, your, what is that? 舌头, right? Is also language. Okay, so usually, often when they leave, they will post on maybe on YouTube or something a farewell message, a farewell speech. But usually, yeah. Okay, so let's read this together. Foreign diplomats stationed in Taipei often post videos containing farewell messages. Okay, but they are usually in their mother tongues. Let's say it again, mother tongues. Or in Mandarin. Okay, I forgot to mention, you know what a diplomat is, right? It's like a representative of a country. Okay. So it says here, in a video posted on Twitter, Bloomfield, who heads the Australian office Taipei, said she was honored to have contributed to the improving ties between the two sides during her tenure, which began in February 2021. Okay, now this is a good word. What is tenure? Right, term of service or time of office or time in that you're in a position. So, for example, what is the tenure of a Taiwanese or American president usually? 4 years, right? And of course, they can get reelected. But we say the tenure, like I know at 美国商会, our tenure is 2 years. It means our time of service or time of in office. Now, it doesn't have to be a 选举. It could be any, like, of course, she's not an elected official, but her time of in service in this position. So at the time in any position, okay? You could even say my tenure as a teacher lasted 20 years. Okay, so it's the time I did something for, okay? So why don't we say together, tenure. Tenure. Okay, so her time in Taiwan began in February 2021. Okay, yeah, so she was helped improve ties between Taiwan and Australia. Okay, so let's read this. In a video posted on Twitter, Bloomfield, who heads the Australian office Taipei, said she was honored to have contributed say this again, honored to have contributed to the improving ties between the two sides during her tenure, which began in February 2021. Okay, that's a photo. The office serves as Australia's de facto embassy in Taiwan in the absence of official diplomatic ties. We've said this word before, but what does de facto mean? Yeah, it means in fact, okay? It means even though officially Taiwan and Australia do not have a, diplomatic relationship, this office serves as Australia's embassy, 大使馆 in Taiwan, okay? And she would be the de facto ambassador, right? She would be the de facto 大使 to Taiwan, okay? Representative to Taiwan. Okay, in the absence of, it means because there is no absence of, means that there is no official diplomatic ties, okay? So absence, absent means I'm not here. If I'm absent from this class, I'm not here, I'm not present. So in the lack of or, anyhow, you understand that? Okay, so let's read this. The office serves Australia's, sorry, it should be serves as. Okay, sorry, I think they're missing a word here because it doesn't serve, it serves as. Okay, so I want to add that word, serves as, A-S, as. Okay, so let's read this together. The office serves as Australia's de facto embassy in Taiwan in the absence of official diplomatic ties. Okay. The video was accompanied by a message that read, "Over the last 3 years, I have seen firsthand Taiwan's rich diversity and resilience and experienced the warmth, friendship, support, and hospitality of the Taiwanese people." Okay, so when you see something firsthand, what does that mean? With your own eyes, it means in person. I've seen this in person. I've seen it firsthand means I've been there, right? So I have seen firsthand Taiwan's rich diversity, and you know the word diversity, right? Means, what is that? Yeah. Multifaceted, many facets, or many, yeah. So diverse means, what is it? 多元性, right? Okay. So why don't we say together diversity? Diversity. Right, and if we want to turn this into a 形容词, it's D-I-V-E-R-S-E, diverse. So why don't we say that too, diverse. Diverse. So here, Taiwan's rich diversity and resilience. Now, we've talked about the word resilient, R-E-N-T. Resilient means what? If something is resilient, strong. Yeah, it's strong. It won't break. It'll last. It'll keep going, right? You can say that tree outside is very resilient. It doesn't fall down in the storm or the typhoon. So if something is resilient, it's very strong. But here, resilience becomes a 名词. So resilient with a T is a 形容词. Resilience with a S, a C-E is a 名词. Okay? So let's say, first of all, let's say it as a 形容词, resilient. Resilient. And then this word, resilience. Resilience. Okay. So she's also experienced the warmth, friendship, support, and you know what hospitality is, right? What is hospitality? Yeah. If you show hospitality to somebody, what do you do? Maybe. Right. You welcome them to your house. Maybe you have dinner with them. You welcome, you make them feel welcome. You make them feel at home. Okay. So that's what we say, hospitality. People like to show hospitality to each other. And I know in Taiwan, people do that very well. So let's say that word together. Hospitality. Hospitality. Obviously, it looks a lot like the word hospital, right? But yeah. So anyhow. Okay, so let's read this, and then I think we'll be done. It says, over the last 3 years, I have seen firsthand Taiwan's rich diversity and resilience, and experienced the warmth, friendship, support, and hospitality of the Taiwanese people. Let's say that again. Hospitality of the Taiwanese people. Right. Okay. Yeah, I'd love to hear her speech in Taiyu, because I think that would be, Taiwanese is very, very difficult for foreigners to learn. I really wish. The other night I was with an American friend, and he's learning 中文 in Taiwan, 普通话. And he was sitting with a Taiwanese friend, and he was trying to say something in Taiyu, and she would say it, and he would say it back, and then she would say it, and he would say it back. And I was listening, I was saying, oh, this is so difficult, because, the tones are just different, right? But sometimes I meet a 外国人 who can really speak Taiyu, and I'm always really, really impressed. And of course, my Taiwanese friends love it when people can say that. So anyhow, it's good for her. Great that she can say that. Yeah. Okay, good. Well, that's all I have for today. So we'll see you on July 20, I think. Yeah. So anyhow, okay, we'll see you. Bye.